Hey guys, I'm just touching base for a handful of new info for Thanksgiving. Concerning the patch and price update for File 2, I have successfully implemented Steam achievements to work in the engine. It was a headache considering the engine's not really built for that, but I figured out a fairly easy way to do it and for all future releases. In fact, you can look on my Steam account, which is Vendal, Vendal, and I'm the only person in the world to have any achievements unlocked. So I finally got those to work. Unfortunately, upon downloading the depots, whatever the hell, however you pronounce that word, the Steam files, re-downloading the Steam files for editing, I found a weird glitch. And the game files, every file name with an apostrophe or an and symbol got corrupted, meaning I have to go through the entire game engine and rename all those files. I don't know what nonsense did that, probably some formatting or encoding errors on Steam, but it should be a fairly simple fix. Maybe it's just a little time consuming. On top of Steam achievements, there's a handful of bug fixes concerning the maps and graphics. And on top of that, a new opening video. I was not the one that made the original opening video for File 1. I made File 2's. I'm not happy at all with how File 1's turned out. It didn't have the right feeling to me. So the patch will be updating and adding Steam achievements that will work functionally in the Steam release and a new opening video. If it wasn't for the fact that File 2 on was built in a different engine to make mapping easier, I had an idea of just releasing File 2 into File 1 as an update. So you'd have the demo would be a complete File 1 and 2, but that's not going to be possible. So it's probably going to just be two separate demos. Anybody that purchased File 1 when it was on sale will be getting half off the full game. So I will be sending those keys out whenever the full game releases. As for writing, I have finished up until File 9 and 10, and File 9 and 10 run parallel together. They're considered one file. It's in the script listed File 9/10. This is the most important chapter in the story. It's when everything comes to a head for both sides of the story, both casts. It's very difficult to write because AA's themes have always been very dark and heavy, but the situation going on in File 9 and 10, I didn't experience it firsthand, but I was close friends with a family member whose family went through this, and it was a very, very sick situation, but it happened. And I always wanted to put that in here, but I needed to work up to it. So it's going to be the hardest file for me to write, just emotionally, and just to get out and order correctly and everything. I'm already about a third of the way through it. I have a deadline to finish the main script, like the whole thing, to get it finalized and ready for recording by January 1st. Dr. Samson's original voice actor, River Canoff, he's been voice acting in AA and doing scenes for me since he started voice acting, he told me. And that's been about 10 years. He is going to come back and record for Samson, but he is professional now. He is blowing up and getting tons and tons and tons of castings and business situations, just like Matt did. But unfortunately, I didn't reach out to Matt in time, and I wasn't very professionally organized to get Matt back, and I couldn't really afford him. But luckily, River is coming back as Samson. I remember when I held original auditions for Anonymous Agony, it was only Hayes' side, and I picked out River's audition specifically for Dr. Samson. There was no other understudies or second choices. It was him. I immediately went to him and said, I want you to voice this character. You are the one. I want to voice it. And I'm happy to have him back, which I'm busting my tail to finish the whole script and finalize what's recorded and what's not, almost specifically for him. He's one of the people I kind of refuse to recast. I have a handful of new people on the team helping me out with internal things like Steam publishing and in-game eventing and things like that, and some scripters. The Steam publishing, integrating the Steam achievements was a bit of a learning curve, but luckily I figured it out. The patch would probably already be out if it wasn't for the fact that every fucking apostrophe was nullified out of my game engine. I don't know what the hell Steam's issue with apostrophes are, but all right, man, noted. I won't put any more apostrophes in file names. Okay, you got it. When I formed Coded Emotion, it was specifically to build a company that only focused on story-heavy games. Of course, I want to make games that are fun to play as well, but that is not my focus. It is a secondary objective, and I'm always willing to step down when it comes to designing gameplay aspects to let somebody else take the mantle. Not to say I'm not trying to learn how to make things more fun myself, but it's just not it wasn't my first focus. In fact, some of the games I had planned for the future, I specifically wanted to deliver games with really strong, well-woven storylines with genres that you usually don't see them in. Stuff like racing games and things like that. Things that usually don't have prominent stories. I really wanted to do that. In fact, one of my favorite games I've ever written is a racing game with a really strong story. It's probably my favorite work yet out of what I've done. I've been seeing a lot of comments and people comparing AA to two games. Yik, a postmodern RPG, and Omori. I looked into Yik. I looked into some creator interviews. From what I read on one of the interviews from the creator of Yik, he also made a character that was initially unlikable and was meant to grow into somebody likable. I sort of did that with Haze, but, I don't think I would make a game with a protagonist that's unlikable only. That's why I had Dr. Samson as a parallel protagonist, because, Haze is initially a very flawed, unlikable, rough character, and his good traits and values, they kind of build as the story goes on. And you see Dr. Samson, and he's initially this upstanding, nice, mature, grown-up person who just has a good head on his shoulders. And as the story progresses, it's kind of like runs opposite of Haze. You slowly see, more of his bad traits and stuff that makes him human, even though he seems almost perfect at the beginning of the story. I actually followed the game. Well, first, Yik. I looked into Yik, and it didn't really interest me at all, just because of the way it looks, which is shallow. But for me to be interested in a story, I can usually tell by the graphics, the screen tinting, how everything looks, if I'm going to like it or not, and the initial themes. But Omori, which is on Steam for $20 right now, which you should go play it. I actually followed Omori way a long time ago. I saw it when it was on a in development page on the RPG Maker forums, and it grabbed me so fast. And I won't play that game just because I know the story is crazy messed up. I know, look who's talking, right? But I just don't feel like feeling all that shit right now. But it's good, so you should play Omori. I'm honored it's held next to AA, honestly. Unfortunately, AA, technical-wise, has a lot more complex things than it does than Omori, so it's going to take a lot long. It's taken a lot longer to develop. Lots of people that I worked with and my friends told me, you should just make AA shorter, compress it, get it out, make some income, make some money. I didn't want to do that. The themes specifically, they insisted that I portray it drawn out a little bit. I did compress the files from File 3 on and make them shorter, but that's not something I want to abridge or make short. Like, it's following a downfall of a person and a recovery of a assault victim. That's a very delicate, layered process, and I wanted to show every step of that. But considering the lore in AA is so large and there's so much actually going on, I am considering making a short game that takes place in Anonymous Agony's world, albeit in a different state at the time. The events in this said game are actually spoken about in Anonymous Agony, but I figured I could, make it. Like I said, if I do end up doing this, it's going to be about the length of Witch's House and set up in the exact same way. And it's going to be mainly choice-based. Lots of decisions that will affect the gameplay. But it will only be about an hour and a half, and I'll probably end up selling it for about $5 if it comes to a head. I'm writing it out now, and between AA work, and trying to see if I can form something. But it is set in Anonymous Agony's world, and before the end of Anonymous Agony, you playing this game will shed a lot of light on stuff going on in the end of the game, and it will share a few crossover scenes. But like I said, this is going to be a very short game if I come out with it. Only 2 main characters, about an hour and a half, 2 hours at the max, and it will only be sold for $5. So look out for that when there's more info concerning that. On top of that, if I have time for this following thing, I do want to do it at some point if I get enough time to, and I get the equipment to record older games, which my computer could probably emulate older games. I wanted to do reviews, And I know everybody in the damn world does that, but very specifically, only games that I feel that have timeless storylines. No matter what the era is, Sega Dreamcast, Super Nintendo, PS2. I mean, there's a very, not a handful, but a very precise amount of games that I feel really go above and beyond with storytelling. Stuff like Nier Automata, Nier, Shadow Hearts, shooter I played called Spec Ops: The Line. Some game stories that I've played have done such amazing things in such amazing. They portrayed such amazing things in such simple ways. It taught me a lot about game design, like how important small details are. Details that most people may overlook, and some people don't. And I love that. So if that pans out and we end up dropping reviews of game stories, be aware it's going to be very, 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 very specific. I'm very picky when I say a game has an amazing story. So if it's going to pop up in the Coded Emotion, which is why we're called Coded Emotion, if it pops up in the Coded Emotion YouTube, I absolutely recommend it with every fiber of my being, and it will affect you. I can personally guarantee that to you. I also want to mention how many people have been looking at the main script on Google Drive and offering suggestions, even with basic formatting, things that I miss, because I don't currently have an editor, because I'm not going to look into getting an editor until the whole thing is done. But I appreciate it. Lots of people have read it and offered suggestions, and I'm a lot more than I ever expected to. So thank you. You're helping me out a lot, because I'm doing all this heavy lifting myself, and I've got a lot of stuff going on. Trust me. I'm also been talking to a psychiatrist just because, untreated ADD. And apparently, he said it's very possible I have chronic fatigue syndrome. I was like, what's that? I was like, oh, it could be due to your genetics. It means you're going to probably always be tired. It doesn't ever go away. I was like, wow, that sucks. It's like, so genetics, that can be from genetics? Like, yeah, it can be from genetics. I was like, wow, I just got to play a bad hand, huh? I was like, yeah, maybe. Which, oh man, chronic fatigue syndrome sounds absolutely fucking terrible. But I did drink an assload of caffeine as a child, so I probably just fucked my adrenal glands. Who knows? I'm going to work through it anyways, but man, that would be horrible. But upon AA's completion, I promise to deliver a story that will be entertaining, impactful, and, you guys won't forget it. I'm sure of that. Well, I think that's everything, guys. Have a happy Thanksgiving, and one final word with this. Oh my god, I just realized something. Hayes, I just realized something. I don't know why it took me so long to realize this. You're like the Carol Baskins of pedophiles. Except instead of tigers, dogs. Get it? Did you just uninstall Free Flow? Good thing that doesn't work on me. Hey, Hayes, don't ignore me. Don't ignore me. Listen to the voices in your head. Hey, hello.